the letting them off the hook is the forgiveness part. That's the next step. We're not letting them off the hook when we forget. What we're doing is we're saying, I'm not gonna go see if you're still there. Like I'm not gonna keep opening the door to see if you're there, because that drains you.
Yeah.
You know, and so what I'm doing is going, you know what? If you're there or not, I'm fine. If you're there or not, I'm fine. And that's where the going from not punishing comes. I'm not going down to the basement to smack you every time I have a chance to. They don't know this is happening. They don't feel it at all, but they're, you know, we're like, ha ha, and they're like, they're fine. They're off living their life. Yeah. But somehow we're just, you know, so now I've stopped going down to the basement to hurt you. And now I'm not even going to the door anymore. I'm not even opening the door to make sure you're still there. If you're on the hook, okay. If you're not, okay. That's what the forgetting has to do.
You're listening to Shall We Unpack This? With your host, Leilani Carrasco. Hey everyone, welcome back to the SWAT podcast. It is the week following the time change. It's spring break where I live, and with the eclipses coming up, there is some crazy swirling energy, and I don't know about you, but I've hit a wall. Today, I am not feeling it. Are you allowed to say that as a podcast host? I don't know, but this is me, no makeup, t-shirt, and we're just going to go with it because our content for today is way too precious to not sit with and relish in. So last week we discussed the first two parts of the forgiveness process, noting that this is a very easeful process that we're talking about. We expect a lot out of ourselves. Talk about hitting a wall. Like, I expect so much more output from myself right now, and I just don't have it to give. Same thing with forgiveness. We expect this hallmark moment or to just quickly forget and just get over it. And we all know in our own experiences that that is not reality, that there is process and maybe even years with each step. Last week, Lauren shared with us the first two steps of this process: to forego or to create space, to forbear. In other words, simply choose not to punish. And this week, we're wrapping up with the next two steps that touch on the issues of forgetting and reconciliation. So let's get to it.
I love, because I think of, we have been told before, well, you need to forgive them because life is short.
Ugh.
But how much sweeter would it be to say, and would it be to hear, if you shared a real hard thing, please take your time in each step. Or maybe you're frustrated right now because you haven't given yourself the grace and permission to take yourself through the steps.
Yes.
Have you given yourself permission to take some space? That feels so much lighter, so that it can be light than we got to ram it down your throat. We got to like build the whole house in a day. So with number two being, I'm not going to punish you. I'm not going to blast you. I'm not going. What does punishment then mean if we're coming on the holidays at the time of this interview? Like, does that mean I don't talk to them at Christmas? Like, what does that look like to not punish when you actually have to be in their presence?
Yeah. So, okay. I'm going to speak to that. Let's go to the analogy real quick to get some distance.
Yeah.
So we're going to the business analogy. Not punishing my client for not paying. Punishing my client for not paying would look like, and it's something that absolutely happens in the business world, like a customer gets burned, like, oh, don't do this for this guy because they don't pay, blah, 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 blah. And there's some level of that, like, hey, warning each other, that's fine. Yeah. Then there's this other aspect as a business owner that you look at and you go, okay, if I'm this person's last contact and I go and burn them in the entire city where they can't get services, are they going to leave me alone? They're not going to leave me alone because I'm the only one that they've been contacting with. So now I've created this energetic tie because I won't let them go, because I won't because I want to punish them. Yeah. I'm going to go burn all of their fields, burn all of their contacts where they can't get any service done to them. And it's like, you know what? Actually, I want them to find their energetic match somewhere else. Mm-hmm. I want them to be free from my punishment so that they don't keep trying to come siphon energy from me. Mm. So part of punishing that we don't kind of realize that is happening is we're not just punishing them. We're actually creating a loop that causes this to continue. It's a currency. It's like and you can call it karma. You can call it like karma is a really great word for it, where it's like the more I punish you, the more I'm gonna reap it back to myself, and because all of a sudden now, even if I'm spreading the word to everybody else, you don't have any resources now. Yeah. You have nothing. And when you have nothing, who are you going to look at and blame for that? You're going to look at me. Yeah. You're going to look at me and blame me. And now we've got this connection again. Yeah. This is a toxic connection that I keep sending energy across this connection through my own punishment. I'm just reinforcing it over and over and over again. And so you're talking about, so for like Christmas is coming up, and or Thanksgiving is even sooner, or whatever it is, and we're gonna have people. We're gonna be in the room with these people. Mm-hmm. So for me, what does not punishing look like? And this is a tough one for me because I'm a Libra moon, which means like I want people to connect and to just. I love the story of connection. I love whenever everyone's getting along.
Hold hands in a circle.
Everybody's so happy, and it's Christmas.
Yes, yes. Bygones be bygones.
Let's just watch a Hallmark movie. I don't really love Hallmark movies, but it's the idea on the inside of like okay, let's watch a tragedy together and cry, and then we'll be closer because of it. Yes. But so I have to become super aware of that personally, that I want everything to be peaceful. I want everything. And I think there's a lot of people who are like that, They want everything to work. I think all of us on some level. And that's the goodness that I want to speak to really quick. I promise this won't take very long. But remember, even the intention, like if you're watching this about forgiveness, like take a moment and congratulate yourself. Like you're on the road. Your goodness is showing because you want to forgive. Maybe you don't want to forgive. Maybe you don't want to forgive, but maybe you want to forgive, and that's something. Like you're on the path towards forgiveness. So that fourth step is out there, and you have set your aim toward it. So that's
I think that's beautiful to recognize your goodness, because when you do have when you're a bitter bitch or you have a grudge, you're mad, you're pissed off, you're hurt, it feels like you're looking at a yucky version of yourself, and it's like, I'm the worst person ever. Here I am again. That I'm being myself, typical Leilani, being blah blah blah. And so to recognize your goodness,
the want to forgive, the clicking on the video, the clicking on the podcast to hear about forgiveness, means
the fact that you clicked on it.
Yes, it means that you want to learn, because you're trying to bring these two parts of you, the ugly thing that you can look at and the highest good that you know is within you. You're looking to bring those things into balance. And so just remember that on that remember that deeply.
Remember that. Sometimes if it just looks like I can acknowledge you, side hug, and then I don't have to be in your business the rest of this gathering.
Yes, that's exactly
instead of this like, kind of
and genuinely shoulder. Like, and here's the thing though, sometimes like maybe the best you can do is the cold shoulder. Because maybe the cold shoulder is refusing to jab in the conversation and get your point across.
Okay.
So like give yourself so much grace, like where you are.
Yeah.
If the best you can do is saying something horribly mean because it keeps you from punching them in the face.
Okay.
Like this is the saying something mean is better than the punching them in the face. If the cold shoulder is or the quietness, maybe, just not speaking and not even smiling, just the not even looking at them, not making eye contact, or they arrive at the party and or the gathering and you go, I'm going to step outside. Maybe that's the best you can do, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a should. There's no, here's how you should act. It's the best you can do in that moment with the intention of not punishing. Or if you want to take it a little step further, blessing. And now I know this is a hard one because it's like, what? But it's like, but going back to the customer analogy, you know what? I bless you. I release you. Like the Fiddler on the Roof. Like, God bless and keep the czar far away from me. Like, I bless you over there.
Now you go away.
Be free to go away.
Yes.
And that, I mean, like, that might be, and the reason I say to bless is because sometimes it's like, if we're focusing on, okay, don't punish, don't punish, don't punish. It becomes this tunnel vision of like, don't be bad, where you turn it towards yourself. Don't be a bad person, don't be a bad person, don't be a bad person. And it's like, instead, let me just bless you by not talking to you. Let me bless you by not throwing a punch. Let me bless you by, not talking shit about you in front of everybody.
Yeah. So I'm going to bless you with not putting any more energy out there. Yes. I'm abstaining. I bless you in my abstinence of any kind of negative energy.
Yes.
So then we move from, okay, I'm not going to punish you. And I might stay in the I'm currently in the I'm not punishing you, and I'm over here. And I don't really even want any more than that right now.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell you, I've returned to the not punishing because I realized through some recent events, I'm punishing again. Interesting. So I've gone through this big, huge nodule of healing, and I've done all this huge work. Way to go. Good job. Way to go, me. I let that go. Oh, there's another one. And I'm back to punishing. Oh, I need some distance. Because I don't even know how to not punish.
Yeah,
so it's
right.
like, so now I'm back to number one on this specific instance.
I need some space.
So this is what I'm talking about, that like cyclical nature. You can't just go and, I achieved. Give yourself so much grace. Yes. So much grace. Yes. And by grace, I just mean like compassion, love, trust that you're doing the best you can.
Yeah. So good. To forget does not mean to make yourself brain dead. Conscious forgetting means letting go of the event. And this is all from the Women Who Run with the Wolves book. Clarissa, Pinkola, Estes. That's the first. This is the second half. Thank God for tape. It means to not conjure up, what she says, the fiery material. So it doesn't mean erasing the memory, but lays the emotion surrounding the memory to rest. So it's like, it's there. The plug is always here. I just realized, there's a plug on this wall. But there's plug always here. It's just like, I'm not going to charge it up.
I'm not going to charge it.
And so I'm like, okay, I'm not emotionally charging that right now. Because eventually, thank God for being tired.
Yes.
If we did not get tired, we would still be carrying so much heavy crap. And it's like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of talking about it. I'm tired of thinking about it. I'm even tired of getting mad about it.
Yes.
And
that's such a gift. And that's the emotional charge I'm talking about in our body. That's one of those symptoms that's like, thank you. So just taking time to love your body and go, the emotional charge, the physical charge, all of that, these are all signs of like, something's off. And so when you feel that exhaustion, it's like, I'm still carrying something. Yeah. Whereas you're plowing through your day and then you get exhausted. Am I holding on to something that I didn't realize I'm holding on to? Give me a quick minute to ask, drop in. Am I holding on to something? Usually within a few seconds, something will pop up. And maybe that's not the thing, but that's the little bitty root that you're willing to handle right now.
Something to work with.
And letting that go, now I can rest. And then the next day, when you have a little bit more energy, there's another. And that's the titration that I'm talking about. Taking the time when you have the energy, as it comes up. Do not go looking into your house. I don't go into my house and start flinging open all the doors and flipping on all the lights, because I will end up in a ball in the fetal position on the floor and I will never move. Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
Like Hoarders. Whenever you watch an episode of Hoarders, that's what it feels like. You're like, don't go in that room. One room at a time.
I know, right? It's too much. So I think when I was messaging you that day, and I'm like, I feel like I'm being rushed into the reconciliation process. Right. And I think that's a lot of where my anger comes from, is I'm like, as a family, we should be close because that's how you're supposed to be. And so this supposed to that I'm chasing, it may never look like that. And reconciliation may not look like the movie or somebody else's relationship.
Yeah.
So this, so we've gotten forgo, we need space. We've gotten the forbear, I'm not punishing you. We've gotten to the forget part, not dwelling and not bringing up the fire and charging it constantly. And then we got the forgive part. And so, I mean, this is like a very heavy part. Like, okay, we've made it this far.
Yeah.
Does that involve reconciliation? Is the forgiveness part finally the reconciliation?
No. It's not.
No. Cool.
Big fat no.
Okay.
Like, and so going back for a moment into forgetting, the reality is this is pretty much kind of where we started also with the 70 times 7 thing. The forgetting is a lot like that, where as something comes up and you're charged, you feel it, and then you go, and this is not forgetting to let them off the hook, because the letting them off the hook is the forgiveness part. That's the next step. We're not letting them off the hook when we forget. What we're doing is we're saying, I'm not gonna go see if you're still there. Like I'm not gonna keep opening the door to see if you're there, because that drains you.
Yeah.
And so what I'm doing is going, you know what? If you're there or not, I'm fine. If you're there or not, I'm fine. And that's where the going from not punishing comes. I'm not going down to the basement to smack you every time I have a chance to. In my mind, that's what's happening. We're holding them in the basement, and we're going to...
Yeah.
They don't know this is happening. They don't feel it at all, but they're... we're like, ha-ha! And they're like, they're fine. They're off living their life.
Yeah.
But somehow we're just, So now I've stopped going down to the basement to hurt you. Now I'm not even going to the door anymore. I'm not even opening the door to make sure you're still there. If you're on the hook, okay. If you're not, okay. That's what the forgetting has to do, is almost going like, and what this does is it brings us to the present moment. Okay. I'm not going to keep going into the past to pull you back into this moment, because you're not here. You're not with me right now. Yeah. And even if they are physically with you, the reality is that, like for you and me, the person that you were in 2001 and the person that I was in 2001, they're not in this room right now. They're way back there.
Way back.
They're completely different people. Like, they don't exist right now. They existed then. But there's no reason to bring them into this relationship right now. If I try to treat you like 2001 Leilani, like, this would not be a friendship. It wouldn't work. But what we do with our unforgiveness is we try to go to whatever this person and
we've
say,
locked them in.
You are still that person. You are still that person. You are still that person. And it is, I want to say, unfair. It is unfair to continue treating them like they're still that person. Now, that doesn't negate what you feel. It doesn't negate how painful it was. But it is unfair to continue to treat them like no time has passed. Because time has passed, and you have no idea what they've gone through. This is why I'm back to step 2 in another situation, is because I've gotten through all these steps with my mom and stuff. It's like I've gotten through all these big things and with this situation, and then we have a new interaction and something happens, and it's like, I did forgive all of that, but this is a new one, and I'm starting again, and it goes a little faster, and it goes a little faster, and it goes a little faster, because the garden is well tended. Yeah.
I think
does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I think another point to make is, like, the fact that you're not denying that you need to do this process. I think a lot of times, because it's such an ugly, taboo thing to be like, oh, I don't forgive somebody, but I don't want to be that bitter bitch. Yeah. So no. I mean, I forgave him once, and that's fine.
It's done. It's done.
It's just it's all done. There's almost, I mean, that sounds noble, but now let's dial it back. That's actually a form of denial. That's just building up. Yeah. And so I think a big step, first of all, is like, don't deny that this got you, and so the forgiving part now.
Yeah, so we've stopped going to check the door to make, we've let go, and like I just remembered from there is we're not pulling it up. We're consciously choosing not to remember over and over and over again. So that's part of and the reason, like, if you do read the book, this part of the step 3 is like this much compared to the other ones. As I was just looking,
I know
they're a little bit more intense.
Yeah.
And the reason is because this one kind of flows into the forgiveness part pretty easily. Once you can start the act of consciously letting it go, the forgiveness, which is the actual letting go of the debt itself, starts to become, it's like that, it's like a slip and slide. Like you start to move that direction because you start to feel good. And when you start to feel good, you don't want to feel bad again.
Yeah.
So, and then you feel yourself, something's coming up. Oh, wait, I have a choice. I want to feel good. I'm going to let that go. I'm going to let that go. I'm going to let that go. And this is when Spirit, in its beautiful love, will bring you compassion. And I want to, in Women Run with Wolves, she doesn't lean into the mystical side of this, but I do, because it's very practical when you read it, and it's absolutely the way to go. But what I've experienced is when you start the conscious letting go after step 1 and step 2, like after you've given yourself space, after you've stopped punishing, you've started to let go, and you start to feel good. What it does is it opens your receptors to, like, rereading a letter with the eyes of love. Rereading a text message with the eyes of love.
Yeah.
Not because you're assuming that that person is good or what that person did was good or any of those things. It's just that you start to look at it with a higher perspective, with a more open perspective. Whereas when you first started the situation, you had, the goggles on, which are, this person is so bad and I'm so bad and we're so bad together and this is all bad and everything. As you let go, you get that higher perspective, which is, I feel good. I am good. Now I can start to embody that goodness. And on a metaphysical level, I have felt it start to go, okay, what if I start to observe this person's actions through the eyes of love, compassion, giving them the benefit of the doubt. And by that I mean you were doing the best you could. So for instance, with my family, the compassion came as my children were growing older. And as I started to realize, as I started to approach the age that my parents were when all of this happened between us, which is like the age that I am now, a little. Wow. And so I'm living the age that my parents were when all of this stuff blew up in their life. Yeah. And it's like, interesting. Yeah. From this age, from this perspective, from having children, from my life experience up to now, as a kid looking at you, as a teenager looking at you, I thought you had these things figured out because that's what it looked like. And I thought you were just being mean or just being condescending or just being, cold. Religious or just being cold, or you were doing, but I can look at it and go, why would you do this? How could you do this? Not why would you do this? How could you do this? But why? Really, why? Curiosity, actual, genuine curiosity. Yeah. I wonder why you would do that. What would it take for me to do that? Well, I don't think I could ever do that. No, I could never do that. No, let's be honest. Like, be really honest. There is a mirror here. Always. There's some part of you doing something that I'm capable of, because we're all a part of this divine, beautiful essence. There's some part of you that is a part of me also. Okay. Oh, I could see being afraid. If I was afraid, I would do that. Oh, were they afraid? Oh, they were afraid. Wow, fear makes you do some terrible things. We have a whole history of people in fear doing some horrible things. And all my parents did was this. Okay, well, that was the best they could do. They were living in complete shame, complete fear, and this is what they did. as a result of it. This makes sense. This is the domino effect that I talked at the very beginning. Like, oh, all of these dominoes of fear and shame and upbringing and their own childhoods and their own parents and all the things that they went through and their parents' parents and their parents' parents, all the way down the line to this moment. And what happened was I took it personally. I took what they did with all the weight of the entire ocean behind them. I took the way this wave hit me, I took it personally. And that's where this is where Christianity is trying to get to, is we are all brothers and sisters. We are all part of the children of the family of God. There's no reason to hold on to all of this, because it's all going to be made right in the kingdom of God. It's all made right. It's all reconciled. So that's like the goal. The problem is that we skip all the steps in the middle.
Yeah. And
so it's like, but once you start to realize and let go, you're forgetting, and then you're actually forgiving, because you start to get perspective. And a little like sneak peek of what's after forgiveness, not reconciliation, but what comes after that is you start to realize, if I were exactly in your position, I probably would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to forgive anymore.
Yeah.
Because now I can take it inside and go, oh, I've done similar things, similar energies. And that's like PhD level forgiveness. Like, so don't try to get there.
And that's one thing. It's like and each stage can have its own relief. It's not like you're just miserable, and in some kind of way faking it till you make it.
Right.
You know, because even when I got to the not punishing, or even just the space part, just giving the space, I suddenly had all of this energy flow back in, and I was able to create something that I had felt stuck in that was totally unrelated. It's like my work was stuck, and then it was freed up because of something way over here.
Absolutely.
And it's like, wow, I didn't realize how much bandwidth that was gobbling up.
1000%. That is exactly it.
So I think with each stage there's a blessing, and there is not a rush to get to the thing, because what if you rush there, it really doesn't even happen anyway.
You actually want to like master the level, not just get to it.
Yeah.
You don't want to just like get to it from here. You want to actually master it, and by master it, it's like embody it and stay there as long as you need to. This is the thing that I don't appreciate people saying, like forgive quickly, forgive often, because their life is short. It's like, yes, life is short, but it's for living. Like, it's for living.
It's for living.
And
I love
it's
that.
like, why are you rushing?
Yeah.
Why are you rushing to get to some sort of pseudo relational forgiveness where we're all just standing around and like robots, everybody's smiling? That's why people dread the holidays, is because you've created this perpetual like stickiness where everybody's just smiling and it's a great day and everything is
so
great
fake and empty,
and no one and people are like lonely for true connection. So it's like, if it takes your entire life to make a true connection, that is a life lived well. That's a life lived well. You know, you don't have to have it right this minute.
That's so good, especially with the house analogy. It's like, you know, when you move into those houses and some person has painted over the outlets, and you're like, why did they do this? Why
did you take the outlet off, then paint, and put the outlet back on? Oh my gosh!
Take the time. Because if you rush it,
oh my goodness,
like a rush forgiveness is very much like a painted over outlet. It's like, that looks like shit. And now you have created more work for me.
I have to go get new outlets. I gotta completely change all of this.
I've got to put myself in danger to scoop out this stuff. Yeah, it's like anytime would you want someone to do a rush tile job? A rush stucco, a rush anything job. Yes. Don't rush it is just the biggest lesson from all of this.
I agree 100%.
And even then, we may not be besties. And it may just be that how this is, and I can live in a whole space and you can live in a whole space. Those two things can exist, and we don't necessarily always reconcile. Absolutely. I've had some people where, I've reconciled, and others where I'm like, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, and that's the key for me. The reconciliation process is like, I've come to terms with, we will reconcile after death. And that's okay if that's where it is. Because the way that I see the world, the way that I see life is that we all come from the same beautiful divinity and we'll all return there. Dust to dust kind of thing, but in the reverse where it's glory to glory, it's like we'll reconcile. We can't help it. We are love. We are love incarnate. Like that's what we are. Wow. But that doesn't mean that like this physical body and this physical body need to resonate all the time. Yeah. It doesn't have to. Because I don't have the bandwidth. I just don't. Yeah. To keep up with that many people.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I love deeply and I love intimately and I want connection in that way. If you don't, okay, great. Yeah. We're not a vibe. Yeah. And that's okay. Be free to find your vibe. Be free to find the people or not. If you want it, great. If not, because if you want a vibe like that, you're going to have to do the work internally to be able to vibrate at that level, to be intimate with people. Yeah. And it's not this is going back to the evangelical part of us that's like, you need to learn, you need to do. It's like, you know what? It is really not my job to teach you any of this. Yeah. Wow. It's not my job to bring you with me. It's not my job to tell you, have you read this book? Let me tell you about forgiveness that I read. Because I'm doing it to you, so you can do it to me. It's like, no. Right. Like, listen, your tools are your tools. Your job is your job. If you do the things in this book or find some other mode of healing and we come around 10 years later and, oh my gosh, we meet each other and I'm at this energy level and you're at this energy level and we never thought we would be here. Great. Absolutely. Miracle of miracles. Yeah. The reconciliation can happen. But I don't have any responsibility to bring you with me. None. Yeah. That's between you and the divine within you and me and the divine within me. And if we're meant to come back together, fantastic. If not, namaste, be free.
And it's such a relief because it is like, again, I think the more we take time to realize our supposed tos, we're family, you're supposed to blah, 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 whatever the supposed to is, that might be hindering the process because you'll force it or you'll be even more hurt because maybe the other person, you're like you say, you're at different energy.
Expectations can kill a relationship. Yeah. Like even a good relationship is like, I'm very close to my husband. We're really good friends and we love each other very deeply. But I'm going to tell you, and I know him really well, anytime I have any sort of expectation of what the literal day, not even like big conceptual, but like how today is going to work out. Yeah. And he doesn't meet those. Yeah. We're going to have a fight. Like, why didn't you, I'm going to pout and he's going to pout or whatever. It's like, and that's a good relationship. So we're not even talking about like a forgiveness one. I know. So it's like expectations are like the enemy of intimacy.
Oh my gosh.
Not that you can't expect your partner to do anything. Yeah. But that's like a whole other thing. But it's just, when you think about it in the context of an already strained relationship, we should be together. We need to be like this. We're supposed to. It's like, how's that work for you in good relationships? Ooh. Not well. So how's it going to work in a strained relationship? Yeah. Even worse. Yeah. So that's, again, going back to that letting go step. Letting go of checking the door. Yeah. That's part of it. I need you to act a certain way so I can let go.
No. Oh, that's so how it is. Yeah. It is contingent. Once it's a contingent on somebody else's behavior, oh gosh, it's throwing a wrench in the process.
Yeah. I'm no longer free.
Yeah, for sure. Now I gotta wait on you. And now we got this whole, and
now
it's your fault. It's your fault that we can't move forward. No. Okay. So
absolutely.
So yeah, to sum that all up, I mean, it was so freeing to be able to talk about this with you because it was like, on one side, I'm getting the, you should be doing this. And then it's like, but then I have this real feeling and it's, Vienna sausage juice and it's gross and I can't look at it and it has no meaning to me. And then to be able to be given the grace of, no, there's a process and you can take these steps. Yeah. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me on this.
Absolutely.
I'm honored.
Now, you have recently written a book called it's called Intuition, Volume 1. A legit volume, not like taped together like my volumes. And so I was like, what poem, because this is pretty much a book of poems.
Yes.
And you can explain how you came across each poem, how it came to you. Yeah. But I would love for you to read one after you've told us just the gist of this book.
Yes, thank you for letting me shamelessly plug my book.
Shameless plug time.
This is a labor of love and years of writing poetry for people. So the reason I call it intuition is because I started writing these poems as a practice of my intuition of reading for people or writing for people. And so what I would ask is someone would, the whole story of starting it was a man I knew made pottery. Okay. And I really wanted a teapot. He made these beautiful teapots, and I was like, oh, I want one. And he wouldn't let me buy it. And so I was like, he was like, give me something creative. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a bigger ask. Give me something creative in exchange for my pot. I'm like, here's a picture I painted. I can't paint, It's like, then all of a sudden it was like, I was laying in bed, and a poem dropped into, I pictured this man, and who he was, and it's like a poem dropped into my spirit for him. And I got up and I wrote it all down, and I hand wrote it for him, and I gave it to him, and it was this beautiful moment. And all of a sudden it was like, I could practice listening by writing poetry. And so all of these are what you could call channeled works, that when people would send me a photo of themselves, either a photo that they loved or that just had a charge for them, whatever they were drawn to send me, they would send to me. And I would kind of meditate on the photo and ask for permission to speak to or to hear what they needed to hear for that moment in time. And 9 times out of 10, I would get an image, a feeling, a word, literal one word, where I would write that word and then hope the rest of the words would come. So, and all of these, and I have several more, in reserve for later, but these are the result of that writing. So sometimes I'll go back and read these and go, whoa, was that me? Did I do that? Which is proof to me of this is a download. Someone else wrote this for these people, and I was simply available.
Yeah, a vessel. You weren't conjuring.
No.
So you're going to read one that really spoke to me.
All right. This poem is called What You Felt, and what I always ask the reader to do is to, as you're taking in the poem, let the words hit you as they hit you. Don't try to consume them, more like absorb them. Okay. You're drinking them in. Don't try to figure it out. Let it surpass. This is kind of one of those moments of letting your body, mind, soul, heart receive.
Okay.
So we'll just take a deep breath. What you felt. Woven through a golden thread, like angels breathing on your head. Let inspiration, blessing flow. It rises, falls, and lets you know this way, that way. Trust yourself. Heaven follows what you felt. Lean in and breathe. Trust the path. It winds and turns and seems like ash, but beauty rises in each step when it flows from trusting rest. Thoughts and sights may try to lead your heart into wandering. Deep inside, without the fear, you will know the truth and hear a voice familiar, full of light. Feel the voice. Stand at full height, chest facing toward the sun. Let nothing stop what you've begun. Heaven follows what you've felt. Trust the path and trust yourself.
So good.
Thank you for that. Thank you for letting me read that.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
What a great finisher for this process.
I agree.
So how can people find this book? How can they find you?
So I am brand new to this whole world, and I am so sorry. I'm not prepared better. Eventually, if I have a website, I'll give it to you to put in the description. But for now, I'm on Instagram. You can find me pretty much everywhere as Webb Woman. I'm on YouTube as Webb Woman. I am on Instagram as Webb Woman with 2 B's.
We'll link it.
Yes, thank you. Other than that, when a website comes, I'll get there.
All right. Thanks so much,
Thank
Lauren.
you, friend. I appreciate you.
That that was a great way to wrap up this process. And again, I hope this has been as much of medicine for you as it has been for me, to know that we can take our time in this process, that it doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be the Hallmark special. It can just be like life in general, choosing to show up day after day in whatever form. If your best looks like 40%, kind of like how I'm rolling today, this is a strong 30 to 40% we got going here. If that's your best, great. If you got a 70, 80, or 90, that's also great. Whatever your best is to show up that day, that is what you have to give. So with that said, have a great week, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for listening. Join us on Instagram at SWUT Podcast. That's SWUTPODCAST for further conversations, insights, and behind-the-scenes content from today's episode. And for the complete viewing experience, tune into Shall We Unpack This on YouTube. We'll see you next week.